Thanks very much. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us today. Today, we're going to talk about subawards. Okay, so here are the usual slides that you see every week. We're going to keep you all muted. Megan's in charge of that. We do that because we want to have a high quality recording for you, but we do care about your questions and your concerns, so please use the chat box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. If you have other folks at your agency that you'd like to receive invitations and the follow-up emails that we're going to send you, you can send us their information at this link, cjar3training@illinois.gov. That's the same address that you'll receive your follow-up email from. We try to do it every afternoon if at all possible. So we're going to include the link to the training recording, the PDF of this PowerPoint you're going to see, and a summary of any key information and next steps for you. And when you do send that information for other folks you want us to add to the contact list, please be sure to give us the staff member name, their role in the grant, as well as their email. So last week we talked about subcontracts on Thursday. So this is the other side of the coin. This is the subawards. So today we're going to discuss the difference again between subawards and subcontracts. We're going to discuss how we view subawards as partnerships between our grantee and their partner agencies. We'll also talk about the actual nitty-gritty of the subaward development and approval process, and then the fiscal and data reporting that your subaward partners will be doing. So let's go back. Last Thursday when we talked about subcontracts, you saw this same slide. So as the policy says, one of the principal differences between a subaward and a subcontract is that when an entity is performing a part of the funded program, we consider that to be a subaward. If they're just providing services that are ancillary to the actual program, they're supporting the implementation of the program, but they're not actually acting as a part of the program, then that's a subcontract. So let's look at those characteristics again. So a subcontract provides goods and services within the normal, operations and aren't doing anything different because of this funding. They provide the same services or package of services to any customer. They normally operate within a competitive environment, so they're competing against other vendors who provide the same package of services. And as I said, the services are ancillary to the funded program. They're not a part of the program. So these are the typical examples that we use. So your utilities, those are vendors. They're providing the same internet or phone service to any customer. The same with professional and personal services. So the space that you lease that's part of the grant, they would lease that same space to any customer. A contractual trainer provides the same training service to you as they would to another customer. Same thing with accounting or advertising. They have a fixed service at a fixed price that they provide to you or to any other customer. But a subaward difference is different because they are providing a part of the funded program. So they may have a voice in the eligibility of the participant. They may have a role in the programmatic decision making. And as I said, they carry out an element of the funded program as opposed to providing a good or service. And this is, I think, one of the easier ways to kind of parse out the difference between a subaward and a subcontract is that the performance of your subaward partner will be measured in part of the overall grant's goals and objectives and their performance measures. So you're not going to be using your goals, objectives, and performance measures table to reflect the performance of your accounting service, but a partner agency that is providing a part of the program, their performance will be reflected in the overall grant's goals, objectives, and performance measures. So here are the most common examples of subawards that we see. an agency that's providing one component of the funded program, or an agency that's providing the same service as the grantee, but they're doing it in a different location or with a different client group. I think in last Thursday's session on subcontracts, the example I used is that, the principal grantee is providing reentry services to young adults, but you have a partner agency that is a specialist in providing reentry services to youth. So you are both providing services directly to the client populations, but just different parts of the population. So they're providing a programmatic service, you're providing a programmatic services just to different groups. So there have been some very rare examples where when we look at these characteristics of both a subaward and a subcontract, that there are some gray areas. And so that's when we just hand it over to our legal office, and they're the ones that make the final and binding decision of how we're going to treat that other entity as a subcontractor or a subaward partner. And that's a really big distinction that we want to make, because the way that we handle subawards and subcontracts is very different. Megan, are there any questions so far, or should we dive into the partnerships?
Looks like you can dive into partnerships.
Okay, thanks, Megan. So, this is our philosophy on grants overall, but particularly with our R3 grants, is that that we see our grantees as our partners in making good things happen in your communities. For R3 programs, our collaborative partners in R3 grants, have a different role. Like I said in that example, one is providing reentry services to one population, you're providing reentry services to another population. So you have a defined role in making that program happen. But we're not going to enter into separate grants with each of those partners in the that are providing the overall program. So we have one agency that is the grantee that makes the application on behalf of all of the collaborative, right? And they're going to act as, what the feds call a pass-through entity. They're going to collect the grant funds and be the principal reporters to the authority. They'll have that principal relationship, but then they'll also have a relationship with their partner agencies, and will be passing through the funding to them. We're not going to be sending checks from the comptroller's office to your partner agencies. They're all going to go to the principal grantee, who will take on the responsibility of appropriately funding their partner agency for the work that they do. So we use the instrument that we use to make all of that happen is our subaward agreement. So as I said, the pass-through entity, if you hear that term, that's the grantee that has the actually has the grant with the authority, and then enters into subawards with the partner agencies. The collaborative or partner agency, which I like to, that's the term I always like to use, is the subrecipient or the subaward agency. So those terms are kind of used interchangeably. I like the collaborative partner because it really does emphasize that they're providing a part of the program, they're a partner in making the overall program happen. So as I said, we see our role with our grantees as being partners and helping to make the programs happen. But we have a defined role as well. So we provide guidance on the financial requirements. We provide technical assistance like this, or once you have an executed agreement, you'll have ongoing technical assistance through your relationship with your assigned grant specialist. So part of that technical assistance is providing guidance to help you prepare for audits. I want you to know that, grant specialists are not auditors, and actually most of us don't have like that audit or accounting background. We have more of the programmatic background, but we do know the guidelines, and we help you get a good clean bill of health when you are audited. So we authorize the dispersal of funds within those state guidelines. And then we also conduct site visits. And I think it's on Thursday, tomorrow, we're going to be doing our site visit training. So that's kind of our role, is to keep you within those guardrails of all of the requirements that come along with government funding, and to go beyond that, and also to conduct site visits where we do, you'll hear tomorrow, where we do take care of the compliance piece of our grants, but also really want to get to know your program and what it achieves, and how you make that happen in your community. So grantees who have subawards, though, they're entering into these subaward agreements with their collaborative agencies. You're going to be taking on some of the roles that we have in overseeing, the way we oversee your grants. You're going to be taking on some of those same roles in overseeing the work of your subaward partners. So you will be collecting performance data from your partner agencies. You're going to be making sure that your partner agencies are maintaining good records and that they're in a good position for audit. You're going to make sure that they're spending the funds that you disperse to them to make this program happen, that their spending conforms to the GATA guidelines and to their subaward budget. And you're going to take on the responsibility to pass grant funds from us to your subaward partners. And you're going to do site visits as well. So you're taking on quite a bit, like your responsibilities that you're taking on for oversight of your subaward partners are really mirroring, in large part, our role in oversight of our grantees. But you're not in it alone. Your grant specialist will be your partner again in making sure that you carry out those responsibilities well. So we're going to be reviewing your draft subaward agreements before they're executed. We'll be providing you templates and forms to help you in your role in oversight of your subaward partners. We're going to observe at least one of your site visits. We're going to be reviewing your site visit reports. And of course, they're always going to be available for ongoing technical assistance. So let's stop here, Megan, and see if there are any questions about that.
Nope, no question.
Okie doke. So let's talk about the subaward document. So you may be wondering, if you're this other entity, this other agency is your partner, you've got an established partnership with them, why do you need to have this subaward document? Well, the subaward is the instrument that helps define the services that your subaward partner will be providing to the grant as a whole. And it's going to lay out each agency's responsibilities to make that program happen. It's also going to lay out the reporting and financial requirements so that both you and your partner agency are both on the same page about the reports that are due to you and the financial requirements that they'll have to conform to. It will be the instrument that will provide for the dispersal of funds, and of course all contracts, because a subaward, like the grant agreement, is a contract. It will provide for the termination of the subaward as well. So if you do have subawards in your agreement, then your grant specialist will send you files to be completed for each subaward. So there's the subaward agreement boiler, and you'll see that it's going to look an awful lot like your grant agreement. It's going to be, because these are all the same requirements and provisions that attach to government money. So they attach on when we are providing a grant agreement to you, and they follow down to the next level when you are providing funding to your subaward partners. So those grant agreements and all those same provisions will look very much alike. So they're going to give you this boilerplate subaward template. Now, you can use your own, but I'm going to tell you that it's going to take a little bit longer, because if you're not using our subaward boiler, then the lawyers are going to have to be looking at that to make sure that all of the necessary provisions are adequate in your own template. So it's a lot simpler just to use ours. We're also going to provide the narrative template. So the same way that you answered questions in your grant application that describe the program, your qualifications for the program, set goals and objectives, described all the work that you're going to do, this narrative template will have those same questions basically, because just as your application materials, your description of the program, your goals and objectives are going to become part of your grant agreement, this is a way to collect that information that will be dropped into the subaward agreement. There's always that we have a cover page for the uniform application for state grant assistance, which basically just outlines the signers of the agreements and all of their necessary information. We're also going to use the same budget template that we use for the grant agreement. You're going to use for your subaward as well. And then we have a very simplified authority programmatic risk assessment, and that's an Excel file. But the same way that you provide the ICQ and you have a call with your specialist, they're actually completing the programmatic risk assessment there. We have to have a risk assessment for your subaward partners as well. And so we've come up with this simplified programmatic risk assessment. Now, your subaward partners don't have to be in the GATA portal, and they don't have to complete an ICQ, that internal control questionnaire that you do when you register with in the GATA portal. So instead, we just have this one simplified programmatic risk assessment, which is a pretty simple Excel file. And that's what you're going to use to identify any elevated administrative or financial risk on the part of your partner agencies, and it will point you toward specific conditions that would be incorporated into the subaward. And those are going to be, remember, those specific conditions are very specific. They're very discrete steps with timelines that now your subaward partner will have to take in order to increase their administrative and financial capacity and make them stronger agencies. So that's one of the things that you, as the grantee, will be overseeing throughout the life of the grant. Your subaward partners' progress toward completing those specific conditions. So it's going to be your responsibility as the grantee to construct that subaward. So your specialist sent you the template and the narrative and the budget. So you're going to send those materials. You're going to send the budget and the narrative to your subaward partner for them to complete. And then you're going to review those materials when they come back to make sure that they're within the scope of the overall agreement, for one thing, that you are in agreement with what they are proposing to do, which part of the program they're going to be completing. You're going to look at that budget to make sure that you believe that it is what you agree to pay for. And you're going to take those and drop them into the exhibits in that subaward document. And it's really pretty straightforward. We can actually provide, I'll try to see if I can do a recording that will actually show you how to drop those materials in and to administer the programmatic risk assessment. We're not going to do that today, but I'll try to do like a canned recording that I can make available on the R3 website. And hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have all of the recordings of this whole training series up on the R3 website as well. So we'll drop that in as well. So after you complete all these puzzle pieces, you've reviewed the materials from your subaward partner, you're in agreement with them, you think they did a good job with the budget and with the narrative, You've dropped it into the subaward template. You're going to complete that whole package. You're going to send that to your grant specialist, and they're going to review it, right? So that package is going to include that uniform application. That's basically like a cover page, a summary of all of the legal information. It's going to be the completed subaward boiler, their budget, and their completed subrecipient programmatic risk assessment. And your specialist is going to review it and make sure that it all makes sense, that's in good shape. The same way that they are reviewing your the materials for your grant agreement, they're going to be doing the same review for your subaward, for the subaward. As I said, I guess I skipped ahead a little bit, that PRA assesses the administrative and financial risk. And like the PRA and the ICQ for the overall grants, that what we're doing with your grant agreement is by defining these discrete steps that your subaward partner has to take, whether it's completing the, a policy or establishing a process for, 2 signatures on every dispersal, that kind of thing, those financial structures, by incorporating these specific conditions in the subaward agreement and providing deadlines for the completion of these steps, it actually strengthens the agency the same way any specific agreement, conditions rather, in your grant agreement help strengthen your agency by building these necessary processes and procedures so that you have a stronger agency as well. Now you're going to be taking those steps to help strengthen your subaward agency. As I said, it uses a simplified version that's not like the one that we do, but we will be posting that demonstration of how to use the PRA on the R3 website. So what to look for? These are things you're going to be looking for when you receive the materials from your subaward partner. They're also the same elements that we're going to be looking at, your specialist will be looking at when you submit these subaward packages to your grant specialist for review. I'll also emphasize that you should not sign the subawards until you have written approval from your grant specialist that everything is in good shape and it's ready to execute. What we're going to be looking for, the materials are complete. Did your grantee answer all the questions fully? Did they really describe all the work that they're going to be doing, and they have the solid goals, objectives, and performance measures? We want to make sure that the budget and the narrative conform. Like I said in previous trainings, I always read the narrative first to understand what the program is supposed to be achieving. And then when I read the budget, that should all make sense. Yes, I see why they need 2 reentry specialists. I see why the reentry specialists will need new laptop computers. I see why there will be travel. Those are the way that I look at it. And that's the way that we want you to be doing it. By the time you get to that budget, there should be no surprises. You're just like, well, they didn't mention this whole other element. The materials and the narrative and the budget have to make sense together. We want to make sure that they're really fully articulating the program activity and the costs. You want to know, you're going to look at that budget narrative and see how they describe that each line item is necessary and is reasonable. How did your subaward partner develop that cost estimate? Is that based on, they've already, purchased laptops for another program, so they know that that's the going rate for laptops, that kind of logic? Or did they do a call around to see what the cost might be? You're going to make sure that the materials conform to the GATA financial guidelines as well. So, that's largely the necessary and reasonable. And if you have any questions about that, you can always refer back to that cost allowability training we did a number of weeks ago. And of course, and I think I gave you the cost allowability guide too, which is kind of like the cheat sheet for what's allowable for each budget category. And of course, you can always reach out to your grant specialist if you're unsure about something. And again, we want to make sure that the activities that are described in your subaward agreements are a subset of the larger agreement, right? So your subaward partner is doing one piece of the program that was described in the overall grant. So they can't be doing something outside the scope of that initial agreement. So that's one thing we do pay attention to. So once you send this package of materials to your grant specialist and they do their review, the same way that they're doing it for your grant agreement, if they have any questions or revisions that need to be made or anything that needs to be clarified, they're going to go back to you about that, and you're going to work with your subaward partner to revise those materials and resubmit them. After your grant specialist is satisfied with the package, then they're going to send it over to our legal folks, and they're going to be reviewing that subaward the same way that they're reviewing grant agreements, because they all have to conform to the same guidelines, right? And again, you know, the Office of General Counsel, OGC, may also request clarification or revision to the materials, because their job is to make sure that all of those bullet points that I had listed on the previous slide are all within the GATA guidelines, within the scope of the larger agreement, that they all make sense together. So they may ask for revision or clarification as well, but they're not going to deal directly with you. OGC is going to relay that information to your grant specialist, who will relay it to you. Once OGC approves the subaward package, your grant specialist will email you a letter documenting the authority approval, and then that will tell you that you can go ahead and execute that subaward. So that's having your subaward partner sign, and then your agency officials will sign. And then you'll send that PDF of that executed subaward to your grant specialist so we can keep that on file. And really, you should not, I want to caution you again, don't execute that subaward until you receive that emailed letter from your grant specialist giving you approval to execute the subaward. And because we are not allowing pre-award costs on your grant agreement, you should not be allowing pre-award costs on your subaward agreements either. So the start date of your subawards should be no sooner than the date of the execution of that subaward. I think there are a bunch of questions and I saw pop up in the chat, Megan. Can you help me with that?
Yeah, there are a few questions. One says, Maureen, as an LLC, I hire independent contractors, vendors to fulfill roles and jobs. They will submit 1099s. I believe they subawards, correct?
No, it sounds like these are I'm not clear if they're vendors or if they're subaward partners. If they're just providing a part of the service of the program, then they are a subaward, and you will take on all of these responsibilities. And I'll show you in a little bit, I'll show you some of the reporting that would be necessary. So they're not going to invoice you. They're going to be submitting a subaward fiscal report. They're going to be submitting data reports, and you're going to be using those data reports to complete your data report you're going to be submitting to the authority. But if they're just coming in to do one discrete service and they're not working directly with your participants, then I would, they sound like they may be vendors.
Next question is, if the subawardee is an existing subawardee with a previous R3 grantee, will ICEJA have to complete another PRA?
Actually, if you had any specific conditions under the first PRA, their new PRA should actually identify less risk, right? That's the idea of it, is that, and that's what we really look for with our grantees when we do the PRAs. and the ICQ is that through these specific conditions, we're actually lowering that risk. So you may have been identified on one element as a medium risk or high risk, and if you've satisfied those specific conditions, that risk should be lower now, right? You have that policy in place, you have that procedure in place, so your risk is lower. I would say that you should complete the PRA and send that along, because that's how we determine, or at least confirm that there is no elevated risk that needs to demand a specific condition. So if they've done the PRA in the past, it should be pretty easy for them to complete the PRA currently, but we want current PRAs.
That's the last question.
Oh, that wasn't too bad. Okay, now I mentioned that your subaward partners aren't going to be invoicing you for their services. You know, like your accountant is going to send you an invoice for their services every month, and you're going to pay that bill like you would pay the rent, or you'd pay your utilities, right? They're going to be billing you for that. Since this is a subaward and they're providing a part of the program, we're going to want a subaward fiscal report form. And I can send you like a real simple template. We'll send that in the follow-up. I'm not going to demonstrate it here. But I think that you'll see that it's a really simplified version of the subaward that I beg your pardon, of the PFR that Sarah demonstrated for you 2 weeks ago. So the subaward fiscal report reflects the total budgeted in each category. It reports expenditures in each budget category, and it reflects the grant funds received and reflects the balance of unspent funds in each budget category, the same way your PFR does. Now, you don't have to use this budget template that we're going to provide you, as long as the template that you use does all of these things. And it's the same way that we use your PFR, your periodic financial report. We use that as the backup documentation to disperse grant funds to you. You're going to use this subaward fiscal report form to disperse funds to your subaward partner. So you're going to be also taking these fiscal expense reports from your subaward partners to aggregate that information to create your PFR and request the dispersals. So timing is important. We'll get to that in a second, but like I said, I'm going to send you the sample report format, or you can use your own as long as it does the same things. The timing is important because if you are reflecting the expenses on the report that's due to us on the 15th of the month, then you're going to need to receive those reports from your subaward partners before that date so that you can incorporate that expense information into the PFR that you're sending to us. So your PFRs are due to us on the 15 days after the end of the reporting period. So we're suggesting that your subaward fiscal report form should be submitted to you within 10 days of the end of the reporting period. So that gives you 5 days to be able to aggregate this information and include it in your PFR that you're going to submit to the authority and do it on time. And I know that particularly if this is the first time you've had a subaward, it may seem like a slightly daunting task. I can tell you that this is the same model that we use for across all of our funds if there are subawards. And in some of our funds, we have had grantees that have had like 40 subaward partners. So they, have this system, and it's doable. Those first ones may be a little rough for you, but again, your grant specialist is there to help you, especially to kind of get your feet under you as you implement this process. So here's a good example. Your November report is due to the authority by December 15th. So that means your subaward fiscal report is going to be due to you by December 10th. So let's stop here and see if there are any questions, Megan.
One, are we able to include the subawardee expense on the PFR even if payment to the subawardee doesn't clear until after the 15th?
No, you're going to want to see, you're going to be reporting as expenses what you have dispersed, right? So when we come out, or when an auditor comes out, and they're going to want to see that the expense that your dispersals are that you report to us are reported in the same month that that check clears to your grantee. So you're going to only be reflecting that expense as the month that it is incurred, right? Does that help?
There's a follow-up question to the LLC independent contractors.
Okay.
I'm a single member LLC. Normally, I hire independent contractors to perform various roles and they submit invoices and 1099. However, they are providing a part of service such as facilitators, administrative assistant, career coaching, IT, etc. Please clarify if they are sub-awardees.
Those are very different things. An administrative assistant isn't providing services directly to your participants, but a job coach is. So those are really different things. The administrative assistant is providing administrative help to the grant, to the grantee agency. But a subaward coach is working directly with your program participants. So the subaward coach, I beg your pardon, the job coach is a subawardee. They are providing a part of the program. The administrative assistant, who helps you keep all of your paperwork right and helps you submit reports to us, they're not working with your participants. They're not. Those are services that support the implementation of the program, but they are not programmatic activities. So those things need to be, those different roles need to be sorted out.
A follow-up to the payment doesn't clear until after the 15th question. Just double check if cut the check before the 15th, but the subawardee didn't deposit it, do not include the amount in the PFR.
So in your first month, you're going to be receiving you're going to be sending in your PFR, right? And it's going to reflect the expenses that you incurred that month, because you're not getting you're not cutting the check to your subaward partner until that first month is complete, right? They're not sending you the you're not sending them funds during that first month of the program activity. You're going to send it to them based on the PFR that they submit to that first month. That's going to be reflected in your PFR the second month, right? But that second month, you're going to be reflecting those expenses from month one for the subaward. So it's because you'll have dispersed month one to your grantee, you're going to be reflecting that. So there's going to be a lag, but we want you to be collecting those by the 10th of the month so that you're able to reflect those month one expenses on your month two PFR, because you've spent that money. You've sent that dispersal to your grantee, to your subaward partner, I should say. So though there's going to be a lag that first month, but you're going to be reporting it. You want the report in time to complete your PFR. I didn't say that very clearly, I'm sorry. But you want to get those reports by the 10th of the month Month one, you're not going to be dispersing anything to your grantee until month one is complete. But your month one expenses will be reflected on your month two because you'll have reimbursed them for their month one expenses. So that's where it's gonna show up. So there's gonna be that 1 month lag reflecting your subaward partner dispersals on your PFR. Tell me if that helps at all. Anything else, Meg?
Nope, no additional questions.
Okay. Let's see if I can be clear going forward. So let's talk about the subaward data report. So the same way that you're going to be collecting financial expense information from your subaward partners, you're going to be collecting data reports from your subaward partners. Remember, they're the ones that their work is going to be reflected in your goals and objectives and performance measures, right? So it's going to be reflecting that work. It's going to be reflecting their progress toward the performance benchmarks that are set in the goals, objectives, and performance measures table in the subaward agreement. We also want you to, the same way that we do with our PPR, which you're going to meet in a couple of weeks, we always include narrative questions in our data reports, in the PPRs, because, you know, no matter how good a job we do of counting things, we really want some context to help us better understand the numbers that are reported, right? So we always want you to make sure that you include an opportunity for your subaward partners to reflect their successes, as well as any barriers to implementation that they've encountered and the strategies that they're using to address them. And this is like, you know, like this is for me is part of like the real meat of the grant monitoring or the subaward monitoring, because everyone can, you know, the beginning of the grant, you're writing this plan of what you're going to do, setting benchmarks for the successes that you're going to have. You know, this number of people are going to go through my program and I can measure their performance afterward. They're going to stay out of jail, or they're going to, you know, get their GED. You're going to be setting those performance measures, those benchmarks. And the reality is that there are often speed bumps that both you as a grantee and your subaward partners are going to encounter. And so it gives us a better understanding. It'll give you, in your role overseeing the work of your subaward partners, a better understanding of what those numbers mean. If you have some narrative information that gives you context on not only what they've achieved, but some of these speed bumps that they have encountered and how they think they're going to navigate around those speed bumps. And that's where that real partnership comes into play. If I see a data report and my grantee is like really not, you know, able to like make any progress toward their benchmarks, and they tell me about these, you know, these unseen barriers, you know, that have popped up, I'm going to get on the phone to them and going to talk through some strategies of how we can deal with those barriers. And so this is part of like your partnership with your grantee. So you're going to want to include narrative questions as well. And if you've got a, you know, a longstanding relationship with them, I would imagine that the data report isn't the only way that you're learning about their successes and these speed bumps, and having that conversation about the ongoing implementation of the program. But the data report is the way that you are going to document those successes, and you're going to document those speed bumps and how you're addressing them. And they become part of the overall grant record. So we want to do a good job in constructing the data report for your subaward partners to document all the work that they are doing to contribute to the overall success of the grant. So as I said, it's used by the subrecipient to demonstrate their performance. It's used by you as the grantee overseeing their work to identify times that you're going to need to get on the phone or, get in the car and go see them, to work on these strategies, to, to navigate around those speed bumps. And you're going to be including their performance reporting in your PPR that you're submitting to the authority, right? So again, we're going to say the same schedule, that if your PPR is due by the 15th of the month after the period being reported, that the subaward data report should get to you within 10 days of the end of the period that's reporting. Now, there won't be the same lag issue that you'll see with the PFR, with the fiscal reporting, because the reporting will be just for that month. So it'll give you an opportunity to aggregate the information from your subaward partners and the work that you're doing, and reflect all of that performance reporting in your PPR that you send to the authority by the 15th day after the reporting period. And here's just another example. And that's all the slides that I have to show you today. And any questions, Megan?
There is a clarification question.
Yes,
So we will receive subaward reports on January 10th for December expenses. We'll include those subaward reports on our February 15th PFR, not January 15th PFR, correct?
Right. So if yes, because you're not going to be dispersing those funds until after that period is over, right? There's going to be that 1 month lag, because you're just reimbursing them, and you're not going to be reimbursing them until after that period that they're reporting on, until it's over. So for the PFRs, the fiscal reports, there will be that 1 month lag, but not for the PPRs, the performance reporting. And if you want to drop whoever's asking that question, if you would be kind enough to just drop your name in the chat, and we can talk offline on that, well, individually, so we can really talk it through. Any other questions, Megan?
None that I.
Great. Then tomorrow we are going to talk about the authority site visits, and we'll take you through the whole process. And then on next Wednesday, pardon me, we're going to talk about monitoring subawards. We're going to dig a little deeper into that fiscal reporting and subaward reporting as well. Oh, and I will send the link to the survey in your follow-up. Last again?
Nope.
Great. Then I'll stop sharing. And I'm going to thank you all for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Thanks again.